what you mean. I'm missing it.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of Haslet's Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, January 28th. The time is 6:30 p.m. and we do have a quorum present. And at this time we have two offices or two placements that need to have their oath of office stated so they can be reappointed to their responsibilities.
Thank you. Paul Wallick in place 4 and Doreen Snediker in place 2. So I'll read it and then you guys just say your names, okay?
It says Paul's place 2.
Yeah, in our agenda it says Ms. Snediker is place 1 and Mr. Wallick is place 2.
That's what the agenda says?
Yeah. Doreen, place 1, Paul, place 2.
Oh, I messed up right there. Okay. No, on this sheet it has Doreen is place 2. I'm sorry, I think I typed that wrong. I think it's... Yeah, so it's wrong on the agenda. I'm sorry about that.
You need to make an agenda change here now.
So let's just clarify, the agenda should read Ms. Snediker for place 2 and Mr. Wallick for place 4, and if we could have that updated in the records for the agenda, that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Statement of appointed officer. So and just state your names, please.
Doreen Snediker.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof, so help me God.
So help me God.
I do.
Thank you. The next page says, oath of office.
I, Doreen Snediker,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of board member of the Haslet Capital Improvements Advisory Committee for the City of Haslet and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. I'll bring those for you to sign in a few minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for your continued service. Moving on to our consent agenda, we have in front of us the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee meeting minutes from February 27th, 2024. And at this time, we need to either approve and accept those minutes or identify required adjustments to those.
So I'm moved that we approve them.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion seconded. All in favor? Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 5, we're going to discuss, consider, and act upon a recommendation to City Council regarding the Haslet Capital Improvements Advisory Committee Water and Sewer Impact Fee Annual Report for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. And we will begin with a staff presentation on this.
Yes. Committee members, my name is Roman. I'm here to present our annual report for the impact fee collections and expenditures. It is our typical reporting that we do. This year we have combined it into one full year worth of data to present you with. There are 3 supporting documents that are included in this report. The supporting document 1 is the list of all the water and sewer connections that have been made to the Haslet water and sewer system due to new development. It includes residential and commercial connections. As you can see, you have experienced strong growth and increase in the development this past fiscal year. 24. It is not as strong as what we've seen from 2019 to 22. As you can see, there is a summary at the very end of the supporting document of total connections, which for the fiscal year, there are almost 300 new connections for water and sewer. In the past, as you can see, you have experienced growth equating to as many as over 500 connections. So there was a little dip last year to about 200 connections, and it jumped significantly by about 50% this year, as you can see. So we suspect that this strong growth will probably continue for a few more years. It's probably not going to be as high as 300 or even 200 units. Besides Sweetgrass Phase 2, that's yet to be released for building permits, and North Glen, that's still under construction. It's probably well 18 months to 2 years away before any building permits would be pulled on that. So there's maybe a total of about 300 to 400 lots total remaining has been already platted. The supporting document number 2, which summarizes the growth, the one that's on the screen right now. The reason for this document is to compare how this actual growth equates to the projections that have been made by the most recent master plans. So the master plans, when they were approved last, assumed that there's going to be 258 connections in water and 285 connections in sewer, which is somewhat unusual, and that's one of the things that we're revising. Typically, the water connections actually should be higher. As you can see, you are above about 25% in water connections to date, total, since this program has began and been last updated. And the sewer is somewhat in line, and the sewer connections are typically more representative of the actual number of connections and growth, because on the water side, the data could be somewhat misleading, because larger commercial meters, for example, they equate to multiple typical smaller residential 3/4 inch meters. So for example, like 1 inch or 2 inch meter would equate to 8 smaller residential meters. So just because we show 8 MUEs, this meter unit equivalencies, in water, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have 8 houses equivalent that came into your system. That would have been just equated to 1 sewer. So that is a summary of that. That's part of the mandatory reporting that we have to do as part of this program. Basically, show all the connections that have been made, how they compare to the studies. And then the third supporting document is the financial operations of those funds. They broke into water and sewer funds separately because for reporting purposes they have to be tracked separately. It summarizes all the transactions, income / expenditures or expenses, and the ending balance for water impact fees as of the end of fiscal year 24 stood right above $3 million, and for sewer was $1.4 million with change. So as of September 30th of last year, the total was about $4.4 million in both funds. So it's in healthy standing. Obviously, to date, it's most likely higher because it does include the last couple of months. So those 3 parts of the mandatory aspects of the reporting that we're supposed to be doing preferably on a biannual basis, as recommended by the state laws. We also like to include a list of sewer and water capital improvement projects that are typically recommended in conjunction when the master plans get adopted and or capital improvement plan gets updated. We removed it because they were been based on the old studies. And I was just wanted to verbally let you know of where we stand. There's essentially 3 impact fee eligible current ongoing sewer projects that we're working on as the city staff. One of them being HC6 or Henrietta Creek number 6 interceptor. It's the sewer upsizing project that will, the limits of from Schoolhouse to Westport Parkway or Malta facility is also known. There have been some changes and adjustments done because there was a lot of coordination and communication been going on with TRA and Fort Worth. So there has been some delays. But the good news is it looks like the total cost of the project is now going to be significantly lower than what was originally budgeted for. I was told by my staff that originally it was around $1.8 million projected to be at the total cost, and as of right now, it's on track to probably be slightly maybe at about $1 million. So pretty healthy savings. There's been a lot of negotiation going on as far as the participation costs attributed to the flow that's going to be contributed to the line, and some of the sewer basins, some have been. I don't want to say exactly revised, but they not been clear due to the area to the west of the railroad tracks, for example. So yeah, sure. And I might not be the expert on this project. Mike Anderson in my office kind of been handling most of it. I can do my best to answer as far as.
But you said that the cost are reduced to the city.
Yes, to the city.
Okay, you didn't say that. You said the cost of the project.
I'm sorry, no.
All right. And the way you explained it does not reduce the cost of a project. And that is certainly not a $1.8 million job.
Yes.
I'll guarantee you that. So, okay, all right. So the cost to the city.
Yes. Apologies if I misspoke.
Okay.
Also, a joint venture with TRA project that's ongoing right now is the metering facility. It's been the final construction plans expected.
Roman, what facility?
The metering facility. It's the TRA metering facility. That's going to be yes. It's on the same branch. Henrietta Creek is going to be just south, yes, on Westport Parkway, yes. So that's been on track, and it looks like it's going to come under budget as well, overall project, which equates to the savings to the city's contribution as well. So that's good news. Lastly, the last project that we got right now, it's under construction, is the sewer line extension to the fire station facility with future service to the ball field parks and the 156 Blue Mountain Road corridor and Brentwood Estates. So that's under construction right now.
That's under construction?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Where are they working?
They're working in Maxwell Estates right now.
Oh, in Maxwell?
Yes.
Okay.
How's that job going?
Well, we're making progress.
It's on my property.
It is on your property,
Yeah.
yes, sir. The goal was to get in and get out of your property as quick as possible to minimize disturbance, obviously.
Before this meeting? Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I have a question regarding the future projections. So in 2021, we had the projections were around 2,800 MUE. So looking at going forward, do we think that the average annual run rate that was in the 21 report was high, low? What's the kind of
Well,
the feeling now?
The feeling now, it's probably, when it gets averaged over a 5-year period, it should be pretty close, and it appears that the water side was underestimated and the sewer side was somewhat in line with the overall growth rate or development rate.
So the available rooftop for residential, that's going to go down because we're getting close to building out the residential projects that are in the city. So what percent of the future MUEs is going to come from commercial versus residential?
That's a good question. That's something that we are looking in with a study update. As you know, usually the residential tends to come first and then followed by commercial.
I'll probably share a little information with regard to that. The primary driver is going to be residential still. At this point in time, we are probably I'll say in 2016, 2017, when these new 7 subdivisions, as we know them, started out, which is Belgrade, Laterra, Caraway, Sweetgrass, Vines, and Watercress. I didn't leave one out, did I? That added approximately 2,000 lots, 2,000 home sites in Haslet. We are at approximately 1,100 where we are now. So we're a little over 50%. And so that will continue to be a driver in the next 3-4 years, depending on how national economy goes. So the commercial, that would be primarily driven by industrial warehousing. And that is on the, within the interior of Haslet, on the north end of town here, everything north of Westwood Parkway. I'll say north of, let's call it Haslet Parkway. But that would be your primary driver, still going to be residential.
Yeah, and you would say that's inside the next 5 years, and then 5 years out, is it going to be more industrial or retail or some other form of MUE generation?
I would say within the next 5 years, next 5 years, our residential construction will be over.
Yeah.
And that will be all available property within the Haslet property as would have been built out. The industrial, that will most likely be built out by that time within Haslet. Though north of our city limits, up 156, there's much more land availability and under construction now, but will continue for a number of years. That does not affect Haslet's CIAC.
So as you look inside this next year, 10-year plan, at some point, everything is going to be built out. Will there be capital projects that we will need to fund beyond 10 years that we are going to have to source or fund through other things other than MUEs?
It's likely, yes. But the bulk of what's been constructed and recommended under this next 10-year capital improvement plan should address as close to the ultimate built-out of the city needs, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Where are you as far as updating the impact fee program?
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all looking at that, updating the cost?
Yes, we are, and we were hoping to bring you the initial presentation of the master plans, capital improvement plans, and the draft report this meeting. But due to some ongoing changes in these projects that I mentioned for sewer, and there's 2 other projects in water, it kind of reshaped our capital improvement plans. So we felt it was worth waiting a little longer to flush all the details out and to see where we stand. And we're planning on making that presentation at the next meeting in June.
So where do you think Haslet is with our impact fees compared to your other customers and other clients? You know, and currently. I know this is an older plan, but I'm just saying, where do you
You always want to compare apples to apples, so you would want to find a municipality in a very similar spot as Haslet, which is pretty tough. No city is alike. So it's hard to just judge based on what does Fort Worth impact fees are, because everybody have different infrastructure needs and a different stage of development needs, or development itself, the rate of development. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, and it changes. That's why there is a need for periodic updates, or at least a deep look into where we stand as of today and if everything is applicable.
Would it be worth reviewing just the fundamentals of what the impact fee is and why it exists?
Yeah, and that becomes a pretty pretty highly discussed subject as you near the built out of the system, because it's hard to rely on a remainder of growth that might come, very little, to recoup those large costs that have been spent on the system initially. So a lot of it is sometimes non-recoupable, or becomes very cost prohibitive for the remainder of development.
At this point, have we deferred progress on any major projects that we know are going to have to come in order to sustain the city? That the current funds or future funds are going to have to be applied to?
Well,
we only reviewed three of the current projects, but what else is out there that is, we know is going to be very expensive and it's going to require a commitment at some point in time?
Well, one of the water improvement project is the expansion of FM 156 pump station site that we are submitting final construction plans to TCQ this week for their approval. So that project has been progressed and it's near bidding process and construction, hopefully, soon.
Yes, sir.
But
Your question is what's out there that we would have liability for in the future?
That was my question.
That project you just spoke of is already a budgeted project, $5.6 million. We have that funded already. That was part of the $17 million certificate of obligation the council took out almost 2 years ago. That was the county.
correct. So part of those.
That pump station is how much? 5.1?
Yes, it's expected to be at about $5.6 million.
All right. It was 2.875 back in 20.
Yeah, it's
Significant.
the scope has grown as well, yes, and the costs have went up.
What's this? Okay.
So beyond those three things that are in progress and already funded, what else do we have out there that we know is going to have to be acted on?
Well,
let's just say in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and we're going to present you detailed plans in June, but top of my head, for example, on the sewer side, we know that there's some choke points in the sewer main between the Meadows going north to Schoolhouse Road, for example. There's a section of the sewer main that's going to have to be upsized. So we include in that particular replacement of the line in our capital improvement plan. There's a couple segments of the Buffalo Creek trunk that's going to have to be upsized just in the certain locations where the capacity is limited. So there's going to be certain upsize and replacement projects going to be presented and listed in that capital improvement plan. And we'll get into more detail now, next presentation.
I'm probably going to ask a dumb question, but I guess my concern is hearing the mayor talk about we're going to have another like 900 plus homes being built over the next 5 years. Is there any kind of concern we're going to overbuild? In other words, we're going to have so many houses we don't have enough water and sewer capacity for these homes, or is that where are we at on that? Is there a concern about getting ahead of our ability to construct the water and sewer we need.
Yeah, the goal is obviously always to plan ahead and keep up and be able to meet those demands. And that's the gist of all these studies and planning. Make sure that you can meet those demands and you're ready for them. And that's why we utilize these projections for our master planning.
So there's no point, I'm just asking questions there's no point then where we can say to some builder, hey, we can't build this next 300 lots you want to build because we don't have the sewer capacity? I guess that's where I'm going with that question.
Well, yes, sure.
Okay, the existing water and sewer plants that we have underway, and I'll say or this pump station improved $5-6 million. All of that is to address this build out.
Okay.
So the answer to your question is no. We know it's coming in 5 years, and sorry, our ass is starving for water, but we got to get water over here.
Yeah.
That's why we are doing this now.
Yeah.
That addresses that. Likewise, the sewer. These major improvements that we're doing in conjunction with, the TRA projects is to address that very fact. Projects that Mona spoke of earlier along 156, those points have been known. In fact, they were part of our consideration in routing this new line. Do we go through Mr. Sweeney's property, go that direction?
Yeah.
Or do we go from fire department out to 156? That was an option. And go north and replace that choke point that runs. What turned out the analysis is that it was more expensive to go across 156 and go north. And yes, it opened up additional area that could be served. I believe it was 320 acres, that additional service area that could be taken in and served by that line. But the analysis coming from the Maxwell Estate area, it was less expensive, and it opened up 540 acres. That was how that decision came to be, that was proposed. But all of that is to address these approximately 900 homes
Yep.
that are coming, and also maintain service to existing Haslet.
Good.
So we buy water from Fort Worth,
Correct.
okay? And obviously, we have enough commitment from Fort Worth to supply water. That's another question. We have the lines, do we have the pump station capacity, but do we actually have the water? So I'm assuming that we've obviously addressed that, and we've addressed that in a 10-year program with Fort Worth, that we can buy all the water that we need. Let's put it that way. Same thing with sewer capacity. We have to buy sewer capacity. So we've also addressed that we purchase enough sewer capacity in the plants, because I'm not even sure where the plant is, closest one around here.
It's Denton Creek Regional.
Where?
Denton Creek Regional Wastewater Plant, just north of Roanoke, yes. It services, I believe, of 5 or 6 communities: South Lake, Keller, Roanoke, Haslet, Justin,
Pretty good size
and North
plant.
Lake, yes. So it's been expanded, it's been doubled in size, and it's a massive project.
Been there, done that. I understand all that. So I'm just saying, so but in that part of the deal is we're seeing the expansion, we're seeing the growth, we know the growth, we project it, the number of MUEs, et cetera, but we've purchased capacity long-term in TRA, and we've purchased capacity from the city. So we're not going to run out of water, and we're not going to run out of sewer capacity.
So recently,
I just answered it.
everybody in Haslet saw a rate increase in water and sewer. That was a direct result of our increase, the expansion of the TRA plant and the expansion of the Fort Worth plant. And both facilities had our yes, it was taken into account.
Yeah, I would expect so. I mean, when they get into that, when you start doing the engineering on it, you
Well-
say it serves 5 or 6 communities, they're going to request that data from all of those various communities.
And they did.
And they do, and you buy that capacity, and you hope you use it all.
Yes, and they are honored to provide you with enough water, for example, City of Fort Worth via the wholesale water agreement that we have in
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
So
yeah, that wholesale, right. And we're subject to rate increases, you know,
And they continuously ask for updates as far as where projections on the demands are. So we're in close contact with those entities, and we share our projections with them, in addition to the internal studies that those two entities do. So they consistently monitor and plan accordingly.
right. I'm sure that, I know Gary is, and I know you guys are familiar with the Water Authority. I forgot what it is, in Fort Worth, that, I mean, they built a pipeline from the reservoir way out there east of 45, Richland Chambers Reservoir.
They have several others.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, there's huge expense involved in bringing water to Fort Worth, and so we'll see as those rates, you know, as they are doing their rate studies and all that, we're going to be impacted by that, and we're going to see that surface water costs a lot of money.
So let me recap, hopefully that everybody understands where our water comes from. It comes from the Tarrant Regional Water District. Tarrant Regional Water District sends it to the Fort Worth plant. The Fort Worth plant processes that water for domestic use and sends it out all to local cities. So the city of Fort Worth is the administration side of the Tarrant Regional Water District to provide our water, which is all surface water. And that being the most reliable source.
Okay, are there any other questions for city staff?
So I have one other question. I'm assuming at this point, when you finish that pump station, you'll have all of your capacity, water storage capacity requirements for the build out at that point. Is that correct? As far as with your ground storage and your backup and then your elevated storage tanks, you don't have another elevated tank in the
Yes and no. There is going to be room for another tank. And the building has been set up capable of being to house bigger pumps.
Okay.
Just bigger.
Okay.
So there will be, in the future, there will be additional expansion of that facility, to answer your question.
And included in that would then be additional elevated storage.
Unless the master plan overall changes, and we'll add some storage somewhere else in the form of ground with a pump station or elevated.
Okay.
Does the plan also consider what development will happen in the ETJ and fees that we'll collect from the ETJ as they may make connections into our system?
As part of a plan of the impact fee update, you were required to establish an impact fee assessment area. Those are the boundaries that you planning to provide your water and those sewer service to. Okay. And it's up to the local entity, the city, to decide the limits of those boundaries. And they could not include ETJ, and that's something that we evaluate as a staff and make determination where the limits should be followed. In your case, they pretty much follow the city limits everywhere.
So if there's not service lines, sewer or water to those properties in the ETJ today, and somebody came in with a major project that wanted to build out, would the city fund the cost of those lines, bringing it into the ETJ, or would the project owner, the applicant, be responsible for getting those services brought to their location and then pay an impact fee associated with making that final connection?
I mean, it could be done in many various ways. It depends on the negotiation with that developer and the city, to what terms they would agree to, who is responsible.
Yeah, I know we've seen a couple of different scenarios brought before us.
Is responsible for extending the line to their point of need. And yes, they pay an impact fee as well. If, say something along I-35, they need, sewer, water and sewer. Well, they'll pay for the extension of that line from our primary line. And also the impact fee. The impact fee covers the cost of this large overall system that we have built already ahead of time. And that's just their fair share of that impact. So, yes, they are responsible for both ends. And Nolan is right, the negotiations can go 6 ways. Well, this is a very direct way, Mr. Developer. You are having the impact, it's your business, you need that need, you pay for it.
It's a lot to consider for the 10-year plan. All right, so any other questions? All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the report as submitted, I guess.
Staff letter.
Staff letter?
Yeah.
Is that what it is, the staff letter?
Recommend the city. Are you recommending we
Where is
approve? It's the, well, second, it's the last page, second to last page. Can you scroll, please, to the bottom? So that's the letter right there. So this is a letter to city council.
All right, okay, there we go. So we'll recommend that the, where are we going?
Right there.
The first paragraph? No, I'm reading it here. He didn't go down far enough. I know that. We got to go up. Let me read it from here.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to go down to the recommendation. All right, there we go. So I moved that we recommend that the impact fee fund balance be used toward the eligible recommended projects on the current 10-year CIP, and the city staff continue to work on finalizing the new impact fee program.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the recommendation as written. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion been second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Roman. All right, our next scheduled meeting is June 24th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m., and that will be followed by our regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on that date. And at this time, we are adjourned. The time is 7:06 p.m. Are you wanting to ask questions during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting?
Zoning, yeah, that's why, just in Haslet, is there a minimum size lot you have to build a house?
Yeah, so I would suggest that there's a lot of information available on the city website that talks about development within the city, and then you could also come and visit with the city staff. And this is the gentleman right here that can help answer those types of questions for you. Yeah, and
It depends on where he's trying to build, too.
yeah, there's different limitations based on where you're located within the city and what the zoning is in those areas. So it's not just a one simple answer. We'd have to look at your property, look at where it's located, what the land, what the zoning is on that property. And so Mr. Swanky is a great resource to help with that. Yep. That's all right. Well, we're moving on to